When I consider some of my favourite games I've played over the years, there's always been a theme interlaced through almost all of them. Freedom. The ability to choose and explore at your own free will is something that pulls me into games faster than you can say sandbox mode. The level of openness in games has only gotten bigger over time. Bigger worlds, bigger storylines, more character customization, and more items that I can stuff into my character's home. And while a lot of these games have elements of these features, a lot of sandbox open world titles will have limits to just how free you can actually be, whether that be giving you an open world to explore but locking you to the main storyline without giving you an opportunity to deviate, or perhaps you're given an entire map to wander around in. You don't have to do any of the main quests or side quests, but there's no real customization to your character. You can't make them your own. In this series, I'll be looking at a vast array of titles that have all featured these elements in some way, and I'll be judging just how open and free you are to explore their worlds and be your own character. We'll be using the three main pillars of what I think makes a game as free as it can be: freedom of story, freedom of character development, and freedom of choices. I'll be analysing each pillar and giving an appropriate roundup at the end. So, all set? Let's get to it then.
Daddy's back, you bitches!
Hello,
Daddy's back, you bitches!
Our first title we'll be looking at is Grand Theft Auto 4. Released in 2008, it was a long-awaited sequel in the GTA series by Rockstar, and promised a large, open-world, complex storytelling, and of course, copious amounts of violence. The story follows Niko Bellic, a Serbian immigrant who came to America in the pursuit of a new start, the American dream, and a personal vendetta. We guide Niko and his cousin through the seedy underbelly of organised crime within Liberty City in search of money and information to lead us to our target. The game was a huge step up from GTA 3, and the world that Rockstar had created felt like a living, breathing city. It truly felt almost like a lifelike experience just to walk the streets of Liberty City and have the AI wandering around, taking phone calls, interacting with food vendors, and just generally feeling like they actually lived in the city. The new physics engine Rage put real weight behind everything you did, like driving around with cars that feel heavy and not like an RC car, or the ragdoll physics applied to people when you inevitably hit someone with that car. So funny to me that they first applied this engine to a table tennis game. But overall, for our context today, Rockstar gave us a living, breathing city to explore and an opportunity to make it our own. So how well did they do that? Let's first look at freedom of story within GTA 4. When I look at the freedom of story in a game, you also have to look at a few minor points, such as the game letting you deviate from the main storyline. When it comes to the level of deviation you are given in this story, it's kind of a two-way street. Yes, you can completely ignore all the main plot missions as soon as you've completed the prologue. However, this also limits your ability to explore and carve out your own path within Liberty City. Initially, when you start the game, the four main islands that make up Liberty City are cut off from one another and will only open up the further you go in the main story. Alongside this, a lot of the side activities and possible work is also locked behind story progression for obvious reasons. This includes, in this case, jobs like working for Roman's cab company or helping little Jacob. These are things that aren't so directly correlated with the main story that you could pretend to be your own character while doing them. Not only is the city locked down to progression, but weapons and certain clothing is also locked to your location. I can understand why they locked all this behind story progression, but if you wanted to roleplay outside of the main plotline and in different locations using certain items or looking a certain way, your best option is to complete the main story up to a point, and then you have access to pretty much everything. So you could see it as a bit of a reward in a way. Another item I'd like to look at when analysing the freedom of story within games is how detached you can be from the main plotline. If you're out in the open world, could you reasonably deny that your character has their established backstory? Or are you constantly reminded of it even outside of main story missions? Do NPCs act in a certain way with your character, or do they simply act as if you're another AI walking around? With GTA 4, I'd say it's pretty good actually. Nobody knows your character. No random NPC is coming up to you and saying, "Hey, Niko Bellic, you're that guy that gunned a load of people down. None of the AI act differently around Nico while wandering the streets, so it allows you to at least detach yourself from the established character and perhaps act as just another NPC. It gives you the opportunity to impose another persona upon yourself so that you can pretend to be who you want to be. This is actually something that I think is quite crucial. To give an example of how it shouldn't be done, there are certain Bethesda titles that do this horribly, mainly Fallout 4. No matter how much you try to be another character within the Wasteland, using various start mods to get out of the imposed plotline, your character will usually link their speech options back to the pre-established plot given to you at the start, regardless of whether or not it's a main story or even side quests.
My son, Sean. He's less than a year old.
If you want to roleplay a certain character archetype, it makes it so hard to do so when the world tries to pull you back into the plotline you have no interest in. Overall, I give GTA 4's implementation of freedom of story a solid 7 out of 10. Having the islands locked behind story progression is understandable, but it limits us on how much we can RP a new character. It doesn't help that many of the weapons and clothing choices you get in game are also locked to these islands. However, the fact that we're allowed to completely deviate off the main story and to do what we want within 5 minutes of starting the game is brilliant, as well as the interactions with NPCs we get out in the open world, allowing us to completely ignore the story most of the time. Next, let's look at freedom of character development. When it comes to role-playing a specific character, it's imperative that you're able to design the character you want. This can be through basic things like changing your character's race, face, body type, hairstyle, to more complex customization, like giving your character a backstory, specific traits and skill sets. It allows you to have a completely different experience within the world you're inhabiting, and it can also help you relate more to the character you're controlling. In GTA 4, however, there's almost none of that. When it comes to customization, you can only really change your clothes, and that's it. Even simple things like hairstyles weren't included in this game like they were in previous titles. You're given the character of Niko Bellic, and you will always be Niko Bellic. Now, while this can link in with the freedom of story and the fact that out in the open world you're mostly a nameless NPC, you can work it around the limitations. The only other real character development you have is the relationship system, where Niko can befriend certain characters and gain benefits through that. You have the opportunity to go on dates with women he meets, or just go drinking or bowling with his male friends. It does offer you a choice in the matter of who he befriends and who he dates, but when you drill down into it, it's mostly pointless fluff. You can gain certain benefits from your friends like weapons and free cab rides, but nothing really changes within the world or how you interact with these characters. So yeah, for freedom of character development, GTA 4 gets a 2 out of 10. Almost nothing you can do can change the playable character. The final pillar I'll discuss is the freedom of choices. When you want to play a certain character, you want to have the choice to interact with missions and activities in your own way. You want to feel that the choices you make as a character has an impact on the world as a whole, making you question your actions before taking them. In the main plotline for GTA 4, Niko will come across at least 10 different choices he can make, and the game gives you 2 choices usually. Do you kill this person or not? That's almost all the choices in this game. Who do you kill and who do you spare? Now, do these choices have a major impact on the character and the world at large? 9 times out of 10, no. Nothing really changes with each choice you make. There are certain options that will give you either slightly more money, a new home, or a new friend, but it's nothing truly game changing. The only major choice you have in the game is towards the end. Spoilers if you somehow haven't played this game. One of the final choices you make is the choice between revenge or money. You get the option to either kill Dimitri and Pegorino, or you can take the deal and you'll receive $250,000. The effects of these choices are quite heavy, as alongside the deal ending, not only do you receive $250,000, but down the line in missions, Roman, your cousin, will be killed, and your girlfriend Kate will abandon you. With revenge, you don't receive the money, and it will also result in Kate's death, but Roman will be spared. Personally, I believe if you're going to assume the role of Niko throughout these missions, it makes more sense to go with revenge rather than money. The deal goes against almost everything Niko stands for. So outside of the main plotline, are there any other choices the player can make to alter the world or make significant changes? Not really. Almost all the choices are baked into the main plot, and the game offers you no chances to make other changes outside of this, which also makes it very limiting if you're trying to impose a different role or personality personality on Nico, which actually links back to those other choices Nico makes now that I think about it. If you were to try and impose a different personality on Nico, the plot will work against you in a way. I believe the right choices for Nico are to spare as many people as he can until the very end. There's one choice that sticks out to me, and it's when you have the opportunity to kill or spare Darko, the man who betrayed you and your squad back in the war. One of the main reasons to come to America was to find out why he betrayed you. Once you have him, you have the option to kill or spare him, and there's no significant changes with either of these choices other than what Nico expresses on his way home. If you spare him, Nico is frustrated, but feels at least some satisfaction in knowing who it was. If you kill him, the only thing Nico really expresses is that he feels empty inside.
What do you mean you don't know how you feel?
I mean, I don't know. I feel empty, okay? I feel empty.
So if you are going to play the main plot, the best role to assume is Nico, a man who is tired of violence and war, and a man who just wants answers. Choosing options to kill in these moments feels completely wrong in almost every circumstance for this character, and while giving the player the choice to make these decisions is something that I look for in these games, I almost feel like I wanted them to take these choices away to help Nico stay true to his character and the background established by Rockstar. To round up our freedom of choices pillar, I'd give this game a solid 5 out of 10. While the game does give you choices to take based on how the player would act, the effects of each choice are quite minimal. You may get slightly different dialogue during a mission or an extra side mission, but other than that final choice, nothing really has a lasting impact on how the game will turn out. So what makes GTA unique in this series? People often praise GTA for its openness and grandeur level storytelling it presents to its players. People often tout GTA as a true sandbox title that offers the player many freedoms. And in certain circumstances, yes, that's completely true. You can wander the city and do what you want if you feel like it. But the more direct experience, and the experience I think Rockstar want you to have, is more focused on the story that they're trying to tell outside of the open world. The open world to me feels like an afterthought in this particular entry in the series. Sure, there's a lot of activities to get up to, but they don't really amount to anything. You can't change the world or plot in a significant way outside of the main missions. You can't change your character to more reflect a persona that you want to inhabit. When it comes to Rockstar's design on this entry, we're merely playing an interactive movie that sometimes lets us deviate slightly depending on how we would play the story. But ultimately the decision still lies at the hands of Rockstar on who lives and who dies. How does our player character think and feel and look? Rockstar crafted a vast open world that on one hand felt like a living, breathing city, but when you really look into it, the world is also devoid of life. So how does GTA stack up against our pillars? Personally, I think while GTA offers us a vast open world to explore at our own will, it almost serves no purpose. You're given a character, you're given a backstory, and you're given your attitudes and voice lines. You're offered no choice in how your character thinks or feels, and you're given a trainline story. Sure, you can switch up the track slightly, do certain missions first, kill someone over another, but you'll still end up at the station at the end, maybe with different passengers, but it'll be the same as everyone else. You can almost view it as a Telltale game with more of an open world to explore. While I do think GTA is a fantastic game that has some of the best storytelling out there, on par or even better than some Hollywood movies, it isn't this vast open world sandbox that everyone touts it to be. It's a movie with an attached playground. The main focus will always be the story Rockstar are telling, not the story you want to tell. Thank you for watching. This was the first installment of a series to come, focused on finding and exploring the most open games out there. If you have any recommendations of games you'd like me to look at, let me know in the comments below. Let me know if you agree or not with what I had to say. I'd love to see your perspective. If you enjoyed this content and want to see more, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for future installments. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.